Andrea was thinking of us. She bought herself a lot of stuff, but she bought us these gummy fries. Yeah, gummy fry candy.
Wow. It comes with something you pour on top?
Yep, it includes strawberry candy ketchup packet.
God, any of the candies that come with like goo that you pour on top, I just think it's fucking foul.
Wow, look, they look just like the picture.
Yeah.
They are gummy. Pretty, and then this is your strawberry candy ketchup. You can but looks pretty
What
fun.
flavor are the fries?
Artificially fruit flavored gummies with fruit flavor strawberry ketchup.
Why don't they go with realism? They should be like, these taste like potatoes.
It tastes like salt. And they mentioned citric acid, so I got a feeling they taste a little bit like oranges or something. So,
well, that's fun.
So we've got that to try at some point, and we'll have to do the Cheetos face mask. I keep trying to find opportunities for Her Majesty to join us.
That sounds fun. On that note, should we look at the gummy bear?
Our 5-pound gummy bear update.
I keep it in the bag because I feel like it's going to get bad or something.
I feel like it get covered with dust or something. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Or I don't need ants in my house. I don't need to eat dusty, sticky things.
Yeah.
But you remember the one we saw that's like the 25, what was it?
Yeah, 25 pounds, sure.
Yeah. 50-pound gummy bear.
Yeah. 1,500-pound gummy bear.
50-pound gummy bear. It's like
a sack of flour.
It's like it's half the tall as I am. But yeah, that one had the bowl for the stomach. Yeah. So I figure that's where I should start going next. I should start eating.
It makes
sense. So that when I see you, maybe by the time we get together next, I'll have a proper divot for us to fill up with other gummy fun. And we can just eat out of the gummy bear belly bowl.
Given that I think you're talking about creating this divot with your teeth, I think I'll skip eating whatever's inside of it. Kaylin takes a massive bite out of the belly of this 5-pound gummy bear. That's the size of her face. The gummy bear is going to win.
A massive bite. Look.
Yeah. Well, it was a massive effort to get a small bite.
Yeah.
How many normal sized gummy bears do you estimate you could get in that hole?
This hole?
That divot, yes.
One.
Okay.
One.
So we have a one gummy
bear
size hole. Oh, 2 bites. 2 bites in one episode. This is unprecedented, folks.
Now we could probably fit 4 or 5. I'm not sure.
Yep. I see what you're getting at. You know, Kaylin, I'm going to need you to get a scale or something and weigh this thing periodically so we know when we hit the major milestone. There's no chance you've hit 1 pound of gummy consumption.
I don't think so, no. I remember when we weighed it the first time, when I first got it, it weighed a little more than 5 pounds. You see, it says net weight is approximately 5 pounds. I don't know if you can see that. It's actually slightly over, which is nice. My whole face is going to be sticky now. But I smell good.
You need a face mask,
like cherry.
Obviously. You know, one of those Cheetos face masks.
Yeah.
I did some homework on these, by the way. So this is the company that makes Cheetos face masks and Mountain Dew lip balm. So you can see.
Amongst other flavors, it looks like.
It's called Taste Beauty. You know, these guys have it figured out. If you are an IP holder in this country, it seems like no matter how big or small, it seems like they may well have a deal cut with you. So if you want Emily in Paris lip balm or you want Tootsie Roll, I mean, it's incredible.
Smarties. What are the Stranger Things?
Is there something with like an Oreo or something in Stranger Things?
It looks like a waffle. I don't know.
It's an eyeshadow palette. It is, and the waffle has the number 011 listed on it. I haven't watched enough Stranger Things to count. I've watched maybe 3 episodes, so there was no waffle makers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know I'm supposed to, but I have 2 problems because, one is Andrea doesn't like sci-fi, right? And then I'm just not into long series. I just don't have the attention span for them anymore. Every series I watch that's 8 episodes, I'm like, this could have been 5 or 6 and been just as good or better, but they're stretching them out to get people to watch them.
Yeah, that does seem to be the way of the world. I feel that way about a lot of multi-episode shows as well. The first one that springs to mind where I'm like, this was absolutely just for the money is Harry Potter. When they broke the last book into 2 movies, I'm like, totally unnecessary. you're really just milking this cash cow in, to me, a very annoying way. But
that was a page straight out of the Tolkien books, right? So they made the 3 main movies, and then they're like, oh crap, we're running out of content. So they took The Hobbit and they broke that into at least 2, maybe 3 movies.
Man, I really liked the Lord of the Rings trilogy when they came out. I can't watch them now. I bought the extended version DVDs, which no one needs. That was basically just like lots of scenes of New Zealand tourism video, like people running in different costumes, because a lot of the story is just them traveling from one place to another, having small interactions, and then a lot of traveling.
I mean, I know people love that movie, but I just found them to be just terminally boring because, I mean, Lord of the Rings was designed to like create this place, Middle Earth. To do that, you got to travel here and there and meet these people, meet those people, and sing these songs and sing those songs. I watch these movies and I'm like, these are so boring. You know, I mentioned my attention span. I know they talk about kids' attention spans going down. I have found my own attention span getting shorter and shorter. Like, I can barely read books anymore. I can't watch these long series. Sitting through movies is tough. I mean, it's amazing.
I've heard that that's a very common phenomenon. It's not like an age thing or anything like that, but it's because of our phones. I'm good at, once I get into a series, then I'm pretty much in. But if you ever lose me on a series, then I'm out, and I'm pretty much out forever. It's been a while since I've like picked up a novel to read. Yeah. Anyways,
weirdly, the last book I'm pretty sure the last book I did finish was Lonesome Dove. So I don't know if you know about this, but Lonesome Dove is, you know, yay thick, nearly 900 pages. I loved every minute of it. I was enwrapped. I read it on a trip to somewhere, one of our many stupid trips, wasting our money on vacations. But I freaking love that book.
And also the TV version.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which I watched with you.
I forgot that you had. Yeah. See, there goes my memory. You were talking about like remembering, not having to remember stuff. Like, anymore, like finding my way around town. I can barely go to the corner store without putting on Waze.
It's really easy to outsource maps and stuff because with newer cars and everything has maps built in. I mean, even mom's old crappy car has like some very shitty map version built in. But like nowadays, there's just almost no reason to be good at knowing where things are, you know? Yeah. Our self-service is good enough that you can almost anywhere get cell coverage to show you where you are. As example, I used to go to one of the like state parks that are, you know, not too far away. I drive out once a month just to go for a little hike by myself, whatever. The trails were very poorly marked, and I was planning on going for like a 2 to 3 mile hike. So like I brought basically nothing with me. I had a backpack with 2 bottles of water and nothing else. Well, I somehow ended off the trail, and I was wandering around the woods for 4 or 5 hours trying to figure out where I was. And eventually I got to the edge of a park, and a dog started barking at me, and I finally thought to look at my phone, and I could see on my phone, like I couldn't tell exactly where I was because I'm just, you know, it's a big square that's like a park. It's like here. And I just remembered that I'd parked on this road. And so then I'm just trudging through all this brush. I get to the edge of the road, and my car's roughly 2 miles up this road from where I came out. And I'm walking up this road just with my backpack, exhausted. And I'm sure that just had cracked, like, you know, that white stuff that builds up on your sides of your mouth when you get really, really thirsty, whatever. This truck pulls up next to me. He's like, "Do you need a ride?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." And I got in a car with I was like, "I don't care. You can kill me. I just can't walk anymore." I was like, "My car's right up here." And he was really nice. He'd offered to like give me some water and stuff. I'm like, "I'm going to pass on taking anything that you give me to drink because who knows." It's the only time I've ever essentially hitchhiked. I got in my car. I was like, first place that has anything that I can buy to drink. And I remember walking in, and everyone was like, it reminds me of the scene from Kill Bill, you know, when she like digs herself out of the grave and is just covered in dust. And she like shuffles. Yes, I think I looked more or less like that.
And they're like, "Honey, you need water, no charge."
Yeah, everyone's like, "Are you okay?"
We have so many great potential segues here, Kaylin. When we were talking about short attention spans, and we were talking about the inability to stick with a series for a long time. I mean, that's like perfect for an introduction to our podcast, because you're going to want to forget this one quickly.
Yeah.
Or Here's the two idiots that can't find their way out of a state park giving you life and financial advice. Whichever of those segues you most like. This is the Robert and Kaylin. What is it called? Oh, yes. This is the Robert and Kaylin. See how short my attention span is? It's unbelievable. Anyway, I remember this. Cue the music. You are listening to the Robert and Kaylin Get Rich podcast. We are coming to you from a trail in a Texas state park where we are lost.
Send help.
Running out of water quickly. And we have such a short attention spans, we don't even know where we are or what we're doing here. So we figure what better time than when you're lost and running out of water to talk about finances and stocks and such.
Whatnot, yeah.
But there's one thing we'll never do no matter how short of water we are, which is what, Kaylin?
Give investment advice or financial advice.
I'm not even real sure why we say this, but it's like, here's a
disclaimer. Just in case. Yeah.
In case somebody like listens to us, here's our stories about like freaking, Lord of the Rings, and are like, I've got to invest in whatever these people invest in, and then they lose.
We can't manage our way to read through one book, but
I know. I have financial books. I check them out from the library. I read 3 chapters, and then I can't finish it. But so if you want to invest in the stuff I invest in, knock yourself out, but don't go suing us. That's the key to this.
There you go. That's it. One thing you should definitely do is smash the like button and hit subscribe and send this to everyone you know. It'll make them all feel smart and like they're good at orienteering and stuff like that.
Yeah. This is definitely a podcast that's going to help your friends feel way smarter. I can't wait. As you know, Kaylin, we have a guest coming on our podcast in a couple weeks here, Frank Thomas, and he mentioned that he listened to our last podcast where we said we would murder somebody who would spend our life savings, right? And he said his reaction was, "That's me. I'm that guy." So if you, I caught you with a drink of soda in your mouth.
I almost spit.
So it'll be fascinating to get a look on the inside of the guy who would spend down all of your life savings at risk of being murdered.
Wow. He's done this already?
Oh, I don't. If you're like that, I don't know that you ever have life savings to begin with. So I have some sense of his financial picture, not a whole sense. The sense he gives me is like, I ain't got no money, Sure. And also like, because I'm stupid and I spend all my money. So these are his words, not mine. I would say the same thing in front of him.
Well, if him and Lisa ever get divorced, I'm not going to marry him no matter what.
If you do, you're going to sign that prenup. This would be
Well, I don't know that helps you if they spend all your money, right?
Yeah, fair point. He's not going to feel that dumb, though, after he sees our Get Rich portfolio, which, in fairness, has recovered mightily since our last episode. We were down 13%. We are now down 8%.
Yeah.
Our Denison options up 25% today. So when they go from 8 cents to 10 cents, that's a 25% increase. So they're only down 33%. We've only lost $335 on those. The picture's basically the same. If it relates to uranium, Trump getting elected president, chicken soup for the soul, or Reddit, it is down and down bad.
But the Warner Brothers, I thought that there was something potentially talking about blocking some monopolies, whatever, with these streaming services. Have you heard about that news?
I did. I read that headline. I don't know it in depth, but that same sports, that joint venture from ESPN, et cetera, to create this sports venture called Venue, they've been sued, and the judge, I believe, issued an injunction to actually stop that formation until this lawsuit goes through. So that they were sued by the powerhouse of Tubi.
Oh, I know Tubi. I was just watching stuff on Tubi.
What is Tubi's deal? What is the Tubi claim to fame?
Tubi is essentially Crackle. It's another free streaming service. They just have free TV and movies sometimes.
Oh, I remember. I read about these guys. Like, they are crushing it. It's all like showing shows like Matlock and all this crap that's like way out of date.
Exactly. Yeah. You know what I was watching on there? I was watching yesterday, Fatal Attractions. What do you think the show is about?
People killing each other, keeping their spouses. Yeah, of course.
Wrong. This is about people who are into weird animals and have them as pets, and then their pets kill them. So
Not too bad.
yeah.
I could see you watching that.
I was like, what? All right, yeah, sure, I'm into it. I was into it. These people are nuts. Any of the people who are super about exotic animals, especially the non-cuddly ones. They have an episode with a guy who's super about venomous snakes. He has like 200 venomous snakes. And I'm like, why? What is the appeal? These things, you can't touch them at all. You can't have them loose at all. They definitely don't give two shits about you.
No.
They're kind of pretty in terms of snakes, but you do just as well getting a kitten, which it would eat. The guy I'm thinking of specifically had 2 young children and 200 venomous snakes. And I'm like, how you ever thought this was a good idea?
You got to do the math here. Like, how many people in the United States have these exotic animals, right? It's a small percentage, so a small number. There's enough of those people have died at the hands of their snakes to put together a series. So
Right. Right.
This is
I
not
mean, they had
good
tigers and
decision-making.
chimpanzees and stuff like this on that show too, but like,
Oh, a chimpanzee will kill you dead as hell, man. They'll rip your your arms off.
I can understand wanting to own a tiger when it's a puppy, a baby,
Yeah.
like, because they're cute when they're little.
Yeah.
But you are not domesticating these animals. It doesn't happen. There comes a point where it's no longer, I don't know, less than 10 pounds. And now it is a very real danger to you. Apparently, there are more tigers living in Texas than there are in the wild, owned by private people, which I'm like, okay, Texans, like, we need to calm down. Like, this story doesn't end well. It just doesn't.
Well, you got to die of something. And as a follow-on to last episode, another key news story came up. We were talking about getting old to the age of like 106. And just yesterday, the world's oldest woman died at 117. Wow. Here's her picture for those of you listening.
Oh, yeah.
She
looking good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know how good you're supposed to look at 117, but I gotta say she doesn't look so bad. I mean, she's dead now, so I imagine she looks even worse. So now the new oldest guy is some cat in Japan. He's 116, but she had some funny quotes here. So a doctor once asked her, "What do you expect from life?" after retrieving blood samples for a study, and Miss Banyas replied, "Death." So I think that's pretty honest.
Yeah. What was that actor from like the 80s who was really old? He played God.
George Burns.
George Burns. They said, "What's the key to long life?" He said, "Keep breathing."
Yeah, he was famously old. I think he was famously old before he was all that old by today's standards. I think they were talking about like how old and crotchety he was when he was like 80 or something. But
they're like, he's 65. Can you believe it? Look how old this guy is.
I know. Now we'd be like, let's run this cat for president, man. He's right up there, prime of his life.
Yeah, I saw that our third RFK, our Kennedy, our third party candidate, I looked at his polling numbers and it looks like he's falling behind in the polls.
He's not going to win?
It doesn't look like it. I mean, he was polling at like 7% or something, which is not terrible for a third party person. But then I think that's dropped down to like 4% because he's started talking about how like HIV is really just people taking poppers and nobody needs to get vaccinated for anything at all. And but stuff like that makes people go like, huh, really?
Yeah, but I think that was already par for the course. I think Harris joining, that changed the game all the way around. And I mean, I think RFK was only a viable candidate when you didn't have two horrible picks to choose from. So Harris, sure, a lot of people hate her, but a major slice of the population is at least like, here's a person with a functioning brain can do a decent job of running the office,
Right. Yeah. RFK did have a worm found in his brain in 2010. So, I mean, he was, right alongside the other candidates.
Yeah. I didn't even mean to reference that. I was just thinking when you've got Biden who can't string together a sentence and you've got a Trump who you don't want to string together a sentence. I mean,
well, I was talking to mom and dad about it a little bit, and it's like, basically, once you take the turn and you start to seem old or your cognitive functioning is starting to decline, it's not coming back. It's a one-way street. So Trump has said some things that didn't make sense, sentences you couldn't really string together that weren't quite as bad as, I mean, Biden like at the debates. That was like, whoo, this.
Yes, well
But
said.
yeah.
Here's our reaction to the Biden debate.
Not so good.
I don't think he should be
What
president.
are we going to do now? What can we do now? Like, yeah, I think that it's not going to improve. I don't know how Kamala is, but clearly lots younger. I feel like she's like 30 years younger than
she's in her
guys.
50s, I think, if memory serves. I'll look it up while you talk.
Perfect. Yeah, I feel like it's high time that we start having slightly younger. Like, I think the country does better if we've got good-looking leadership, and it's been a while since we've had a good-looking president.
Oh yeah,
in my opinion.
Well, then we should definitely be the North Dakota governor. This is my pick for hottest. Nope, sorry. Not North Dakota. That would be Doug Burgum. South Dakota.
Hey, Doug Burgum. Look out.
Doug Burgum, hot stuff. Hey, right now I gotta pull up a picture of Doug Burgum.
He's so sexy.
I mean, listen,
I can't wait to see him.
He's a politician. He's not a terrible looking guy, but hang on. All right, hang on.
Like, check him out, Doug Burgum.
Doug Burgum. Here we go.
Good. Oh yeah.
I mean, he's not a.
It's like, come here, daddy.
Doug Burgum, Silver Fox. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's got it. I mean,
he's an okay looking guy. I'm not. No hate, Doug Burgum. You look fine.
I mean, I assume being a governor, like most governors, have many millions of dollars, so I'm sure that helps make him more attractive. Yeah, I always have to defer to women because women all the time, like a picture will come up and the women are like, "Hello," and I'm like, "Okay, all right, I get it. I don't know."
Yeah, I mean, this guy. There's a couple of pictures there where I'm like, he's pretty good looking in some of those pictures. Yeah. Some of those pictures, he's less good looking.
So much for North Dakota. Let's try South Dakota. Obviously, the Dakotas are where the hotties are bred. So here's Kristi Noem, the governor of
She is very pretty.
South Dakota.
She looks like she could be in a Pantene commercial with that hair.
I know, her hair is
like,
really key. Yeah.
Like, that's a pretty pouty little, she's pretty.
She came to fame because she wrote a book, as all these politicians do, but in one scene of the book, she shoots her own dog.
I think I've heard about that.
Yeah, so that got her kind of famous. For the record, Kamala Harris is 59 years old, and she's not Kristi Noem pretty, but she's all right. But yeah, I feel like all of politics, like this presidential campaign is definitely representative of like a generational battle where these octogenarians, like we've lived in this gerontocracy where like senators are ancient. Like the average age of senators is well into the 60s. And like the Ruth Bader Ginsburg type thing where it's like, we have to figure this out as a society as to, are we going to let old people continue to run the show, or is there some way that we can fairly and equitably, figure this out to where it's not like ruining our society? So.
Agreed. I mean, I think that like specifically with the Supreme Court, the idea back in the day was that if you give somebody a position for life, then they won't be likely to be swayed. They won't be pushed around. Like they'll be able to just stay objective, right? We live longer and longer and longer. And I personally was a Ruth Bader Ginsburg fan, but at the end there, it was delaying the wheels of, she was absent a lot because she was sick. And I don't think that this is necessarily good for society to like have people that become a liability with their age. Like, and also, what the hell do these octogenarians care about what's gonna, like, you guys are about to die, like, what does it matter? Like, whatever, I'll fucking do what I want to do and then I'll die and I don't have to deal with repercussions. I think that if anybody cares about politics, what they should really be focused in on is their local politics. That's where people kind of cut their teeth on their way to being in these very high powerful positions and whatnot. But
well, and also like your local school board and city council have way more impact on your day-to-day life than the president of the United States. But for whatever reason, those are just like forgotten elections, and the president, of course, gets all the attention. But you know whose attention the city council retains? The octogenarians, right? So these guys vote in droves, and If you've ever been to a city council meeting, you want to see crazy, like go see the. You ask what if octogenarians care? Well, apparently they care a lot, because go to a city council meeting or hell, go to your Thanksgiving dinner and start picking the brain of the older members of the family. You'll hear some of the craziest shit about getting rid of NASA and all this crap. Like they glom onto these like pet peeve issues or whatever. And you're like, do you understand that NASA is like, if this sheet of paper was the federal budget, like NASA's like this. So like whether we wipe NASA off the face of the earth is going to have no impact on federal spending. You know who they do spend a lot of money on? Old people. Defense, Medicare,
healthcare,
I've heard the U.S. referred to as an insurance company with an army, basically, and that sounds about right.
That's funny. I like that. Like, I heard the story of this one. It wasn't a school library, but it was a public library. The people had pushed. They had a list of 55 books. And they were like, got to get these books out of this library, and the library ended up, for whatever reason, I can't remember, because of fines or whatever, they had to shut down. And they were like, so did you ever get rid of those books? And they were like, no, because we never had those books to begin with. And like this library ended up having to close its doors because it didn't have enough funding to handle all the hate. Anyways, it was like, geez, like, I get that there's some books that are like, that, are tricky for having in schools. But it's not like I go to my high school library to look up the anarchist cookbook or shit on how to like make a pipe bomb. There's the internet. Kids use the internet for that shit. Like, that's the other thing. Like, who's going to the library and checking out these weird ass books that keep getting read in these like congressional hearings that are like, Tommy looked over at Jimmy and was like, I totally want to suck your penis. Blah, blah. Like, what? Like, who has ever seen this book? Like, what? Like, porn is available everywhere. So if that's your worry, then like shut down your internet. Just stop having a computer in your house. Like, but nobody's going to get books for sure. Like, I mean, but like the librarians at schools generally, historically, have been the ones who make the decision what books are there and what aren't, right? So like maybe we have a rogue librarian here and there, but in general, I don't think that the librarians are like picking these books, there's a limited amount of space. So they're going to pick like the books about frogs and like what,
Huckleberry Finn
and Wuthering Heights. Yeah. And not the soft porn, like about exploring my gay sexuality. I just don't see it,
The problem is the librarians are all part of the deep state now, Kaylin, don't you know? I mean, they're
true.
Government employees, so they've been brainwashed through the microfiche that are being shot from the Jewish space lasers. So you have to watch.
Yeah, that's totally true.
And I think Kamala Harris's husband has something to do with this.
Probably.
Just ask your oldest relative at next Thanksgiving.
Yes, I absolutely will. You'll be there, so we can ask together. We can figure out which one's the oldest.
I saw an article that I thought you would be interested in. That again, perfect segue to this if you're talking about companies mired in controversy, but this one is much more financially oriented. So it's called "Families Are Going into Debt for Disney Vacations." And on the same day, there was another article. I will just read you this title, but New York Times decided they needed not one, but two articles about Disney. And the other one was called, "Is a Disney Theme Park Vacation Still Worth the Price?" So anyhow, now you get into this story and they're like, I had like $500 worth of credit card debt I had to pay off over the next 3 months. And I could get behind that. I don't have any problem with that if you're managing it carefully. But these guys that are the title people spent $6,000 on their Disney vacation, but they were saying the cost of a 1-week trip to Disney can range from $6,500 to $15,500, not including flights or souvenirs, according to NerdWallet. And they're like, at this point, you could have a trip to Italy, instead of going to Italy at Epcot Center, you could go to Italy.
The daily entrance is what? I saw it say $200. If you're going 7 days and you're a family of 4, that's $5,600.
Yeah, incredible. And you haven't spent a dime on food, you know.
That is nothing. That's not hotel. That's nothing else.
Yeah, you can go some really, really nice vacations. You could go to a Four Seasons resort in Hawaii and spend that kind of money, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's wild. Just the drinks and food and stuff when you're in there, it's just like how quick that adds up is crazy. Do you remember when we went to Disney when we were kids? I mean,
I was going to ask you the very same question because you're significantly younger than I was. I mean, you still are, but at the time you were much earlier developmentally than me. I have a couple of really key and wonderful memories of our Disney trip when we were kids. I don't remember how old I was, probably 8 or 10. You were probably 3 to 5. So
Yep. I don't remember it at all. I've seen pictures of like me with Tigger and things like that. I have zero recollection of it.
I bought an autograph book and I went around to all the characters to autograph the book, and I loved that.
Sure.
Loved the Italy dinner in Epcot. I remember the Figment who was on the ride of the future in Epcot. I remember the airplane was huge, and I remember there being trouble with the rental car. I mean, just stuff like this. So I guess I remember that. It was pretty impactful memory. I think if your kid's 8...
But you were the right age then. If you're about 8.
I think if your kid is 5 or younger, like you could take a cardboard box to the beach and you'd have as much of a lovely time and create as many memories or lack thereof as a Disney World trip. Right. And you wouldn't go broke doing it. And, you know, this goes back to what we were talking about last podcast about imprisoning yourself in this lack of savings, right? So if you invest in the stock market at 7%, which is approximately the historical average, right? You're going to double your value every 10 years. So your 15 grand that they said was the top end of this that you spend on this trip, you know, so you're at 10 years, 30, 20 years, 60, 30 years, 120,
it's going to get
40, $250,000. So you're willing to spend $250,000 on this memory for your 5-year-old at Disney World. I mean, multiple times a year, I think, or multiple times over the course of their childhood.
Right. Like the vacations that I remember best growing up were really like the national parks. Yeah. And I was being on road trips, driving, you know, I have vague memories of mom and dad getting us up at like 3:00 in the morning or something and loading us into the van. And then we'd go back to sleep and then wake up and we're someplace several states away or whatever. Yeah. But I think that that's like a pretty smart way to go, you know, like with national parks. The cost has got to be pretty stinking. Certainly the way mom and dad did it. Like I couldn't tell you the first thing that do we leave to go to a restaurant to eat? Do we stay there and cook stuff to eat? No clue.
I think you have an occasional for them, a restaurant meal was a splurge. So there was cooking on a camp stove. And I remember one meal very clearly. It was a like tuna helper. And I remember this because they cooked the dinner and then it started raining just buckets, and so we ate now watered down tuna helper with hot and cold spots in the van, right, as the rain just absolutely pummeled. So I just have these little memories. I couldn't tell you to save my soul, I could not tell you which trip, what state park we were at, any of that, but I have that little inkling of a memory and several others like that. Do you remember driving through the dinosaur statue parks and because we used to do the shit out of things like that? Because you're on these mega road trips, so any damn thing on the side of the road beats being driving by cornfields, and it's especially in the pre-cell phone era. And I promise you and I were no better kids about keeping ourselves entertained than the knuckleheads of this day and age. So.
I feel like we did Mad Libs in the car sometimes. Yeah. There were some other little games like that we would do. Memory is such an interesting thing, you know, these things that you think are going to be really, really crystallized,
My story they always remember is me breaking my arm in school, and dad
I remember
dad
this.
not coming to pick me up because the nurse
And mom telling,
wouldn't give him a straight answer really, but he's also because he's dad, mom would have like,
yeah, he's like, can he ride the bus? And she's like, I mean, theoretically he could ride the bus. And he's like, have him ride the bus.
Right.
And mom was like, I will divorce you if you ever leave our child. And she told him that. Like, that was the one time mom like legit threatened divorce, which I feel like is fair because the shocks on buses suck.
Yeah.
So you must have been in just agony, like sitting around the whole day with a broken arm and then having to be on a bus at like
I think it was
every bump. Like.
so from memory. It wasn't one of these broken arms that I wasn't like my first broken arm, total fracture of the humerus, like, I mean, agonizing pain. That's the big bone right here. Yeah. I hit it. Hit the medicine ball,
right?
Just snapped that bone in half. My God. I mean, I saw stars, almost threw up, fainted, whatever, and just agonizing pain until they gave me the drugs and got it set. This arm, it was like a weird break. It was a weird, my bone hadn't like really grown in correctly or whatever. So they like had to realign the bones and stuff like that. But it wasn't like a serious break. It wasn't super painful. But I was kind of like, walking around, with my arm hanging there and not really able to use my arm. So yeah, I think the bus ride home was a little painful. Plus that, better part of a mile walk from the bus stop home that we always go through. And then mom's not home and I'm hanging around at the house by myself for a while. And she gets home, takes one look at me and is like, what happened to you? And next thing you know, we're going to the doctor's office.
The ER, yeah, of course.
So that's wild.
Man, I broke my arm. I also had a long ass walk home because I did it on the jungle gym that was like at some little school. It wasn't very far from our house, but I had my bike, and for whatever reason, my friend that was with me couldn't manage both bikes, so then I was trying to push the bike with my broken arm and like crying and whatever. Like, could have just left the stupid $50 bike.
And you're like, come on, friend, do better.
Yeah. Mom seems to know as soon as she sees one of us, like, because this definitely is true with Ariel also, like, she's like, you have a broken arm. Let's go. Like
motherly instinct, the spider sense.
Yeah,
goes up.
like she just. She's like, the way you're holding that, like I can see that's broken.
There's a broken arm here. We need to take action. Now, we were talking about so these road trips. So my family's now running gag about mom and road trips is to sum in one sentence, there's no brown sign she won't read, basically. So the joke is like, you see one of those brown informational historical markers on the side of the road, right? The brakes come to a screeching halt. And you're like,
she's like, what happened here? Lewis and Clark knew something.
The pioneer women established a church ice cream social in 1804. Yeah. Got to read all about that.
Like, fascinating.
And then you go to the national park and got to read every sign about the geologic formations and the special breeds of squirrels that live in the park and the wildflowers. This is the wrong season for it, and you're not going to see anyway. Yeah, that's the joke about grandma, wants to read all that stuff, which is fair to an extent, but
totally, absolutely, yeah. Like I 100% see that.
I'm not far from that. I'm like, there's a sign over there. We could go read that sign.
I know. Yeah, I know. Like it gets into you. Like it's insidious. Yeah. Like becomes a part of who you are once you're.
We're an Olympic national.
Like now I need to know. Like, was that a really good lookout? Like, there's a scenic lookout over there. Like,
I know. Eventually, we did. We should this trip we just got back from. We did Mount Rainier and Olympic National Park. So Mount Rainier, the thing is, it's all about Mount Rainier. It's like, okay, this angle of Mount Rainier, this angle on the east side. This, So eventually, you're like, good lookout, bad lookout. Who gives a shit? We've seen Mount Rainier every angle.
Yeah.
Who cares? Then we go to Olympic and. Olympic is a crazy national park because it's laid out weird and parts are disconnected, and it's got like 3 zones. One's a mountainous, one's a beach type zone, one's like actually a rainforest, but northwestern rainforest. Anyway, we start in the mountain zone. We do the first hike as a group, which is it's a paved hike, so it's like obviously really, really popular. But where this story ties in is you're getting up to damn near the top of this. hike, and there's a sign. So I see this sign. I'm like, oh my God, we got to get to that sign because I bet whatever this is good. Looking out over the Cascades, mountain range, or whatever it is. And you get up there, and it's like, it's about the hoary marmot or something. And it's just like,
like,
these relatives of the squirrel live in, on this temperate plain. And you're like, oh man, fuck, I just killed myself to get to this stupid sign.
Like, thanks a lot, park rangers.
Yeah, do better, park rangers.
Totally got me.
I mean, look,
totally got me.
There's a stunning view of the Olympic Cascade National, whatever, Rocky Mountain Range.
Yeah.
And over here, there's some marmots you're not going to see. Like, what are you making a sign about? Come on.
Is the Hoa rainforest part of?
Yes.
Like
Hoa.
that? Yeah, that's Hoa. Oh, yeah. So,
okay, but, funny story. Hold your thought. Funny story about the Hoa rainforest. So that's way on the western edge. You got to drive around the hours to get there. We're all kind of tired of it, but we got to get in there and we got to see this thing in the Hoa rainforest, which is the Hall of Moses. Got to see the Hall of Moses is what I read all about, right? Totally worth seeing. Got to see this Hall of Moses. We get in there. Andre reads the sign and she's like, it's the Hall of Mosses. These are moss-covered trees. And I'm like, what? My whole life I thought it was the Hall of Moses. I didn't know why. I didn't know why we named it after Moses. But quasi-biblical.
Well, I got the 12 apostles. There's the 12 apostles,
exactly.
Over there too.
I thought it was the same basic thing.
Why not Moses?
You can name it after any. Yeah, I mean, especially a geological thing from Lewis and Clark would 100% name something after Moses or Elijah or whatever.
The Grand Tetons are named after boobs. I mean,
hey, you got to get your priorities
these guys
saved.
were coming up with whatever. Man, it's been a long time since I've seen a woman, and that kind of looks like a boob.
Very kind of. Very kind of.
Yeah, you really have to use your imagination.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I so one birthday. Right after the movie Blackfish came out, right? So that movie's about orca and whatever. Yeah. And I was really moved by it. So I decided to take a trip up to Washington State and go whale watching, which was like $120 or whatever. It was such a bad experience. I mean, it was just so boring. We didn't see anything. I was like, man, what a mistake. So it was the worst birthday ever. But the Hoa rainforest, I thought it was amazing. That part of the trip was definitely the best. The whale watching, though, everyone should skip that. No. You don't really need to be near an orca. Let's just be honest.
Well, it's weird because you are I've been on 5 whale watches and you always see you're the only person I know that has a story of going whale watching and not seeing a whale. By the way, there was a class, just side tangent. Cody's school had a class trip and they went what they called whaling. And I was like, you went and hunted whales? And they're like,
yeah, that's what I was thinking. You're
no, a whale watch. And I'm like, well, that's not whaling. Anyway, all right. So
yeah, you're harvesting blubber if you're whaling.
Okay. I mean, you go to the pencil factory and see how pencils are made, and then you see how whales are harvested. I don't know, but no, I just go to the whale watch. Anyway, we went on a whale watch on our Pacific Northwest trip, and we're hoping to see orca, right? So we go out, and Andrea, she got motion sickness, throws up. We get out there.
Yeah.
Eventually, after long last, they find this humpback whale. Like I said, I've been on 5 whale watch trips. Every one of them humpback whale. You see one humpback comes up, spouts, every so often you flips the tail up. I don't need to see this again. I was hoping to see an orca. Anyway, they were basically like, well, guys, as you know, we have this whale watch guarantee, which I'm sure they had on your whale watch as well, right?
Yeah.
So you're guaranteed another trip. You just have to pay the $15 natural resources, tax or whatever. Otherwise, you can go see it. And I'm like, I have and they're like, you get that because we just saw this one crummy humpback, basically. And I'm like, I have these guys figured out. This guarantee, nobody cashes in this guarantee.
No one does that.
Who's going to take another day of their vacation, go out on the boat again?
Hey, this thing sucked that we did. That was a totally terrible use of our day. Let's try again.
All it costs is $15 now. This is money in the bank. We're playing with house money. No.
Right.
No. So no wonder that's when they were like, yeah, we know you saw a whale, but we're giving you back your money anyway. I was like, this whale watch guarantee is not what it's cracked up to be.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, nice way to give me my money back. I would happily take the cash, though.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I do have a scam story for us.
All right.
This is a very big departure from last week, but I think it's a pretty fun story. So this is about a guy named Jonathan Tokley Perry, and he became a specialist in antiquities restoration. Right, he grew up poor in England, but ended up going to Cambridge and decided to like transform himself into, effectively, he's like Indiana Jones. So he was doing all these restorations. Well, this guy's like, it'd be really awesome to own some of these antiquities that I get to, handle. And so he goes over to Egypt and somehow gets connected with this builder who's very hard up for cash. And like the guy's like, I found this thing. I think it's worth a lot. It turns out to be this 3,000-year-old pharaoh sculpture, right? And as soon as he's like, this is going to be worth a lot. But like he plays it cool. He's like, listen, 6,000 cash or nothing, right? And like the guy's like, fine, right? So this is during the middle of the Gulf War. Like they're security is an all-time high. They're very concerned about antiquities being smuggled out of Egypt. Because he's a restorer, though, he knows all the tricks. So he covers the whole thing with plastic, and then covers it with plaster to make it look like a kitschy souvenir. Like he makes it look cheesy and paints it and all of this stuff. Buys a stand, replaces it, puts it on a stand for something else, like throws away the hotel shop souvenir. And as he's going through security, apparently the guards or whatever get out a key and they scratch at the plaster to see if there's rock underneath or whatever. He manages to get them to scratch in an area where he added extra plaster, whatever, gets it back, manages to melt it down, and sells that shit for $1 million. $1 million. So he's like, I can do this all day long. And so he starts going back and doing this over and over and over again. And eventually he's like, I'm going to get caught because I'm spending too much time flying back and forth with really kitschy things. Like people are going to put it together. And so he's like, I need to find a mule to like help me. And he hires his landlord, which is weird. But the landlord immediately like gets thinking he can handle this on his own. Of course, he does not have the experience. He's a regular Joe. And so he ends up bringing back this like ancient papyrus. And he's like, I'm not sure if this is real or not. And he's trying to kind of screw over the guy who hired him. So he takes it to the British National Museum, have their antiquities people look at it to verify it or not. They immediately call the police. And so they put together that this guy Andrew, who's done a couple of runs, but like this is a small tomatoes compared to the other guy. So it's not hard to tie the mule Andrew to Jonathan, the main guy, because it's his landlord. And so apparently they go over to Jonathan's place one evening and he's not at home. So the police like break into his house, and Jonathan rolls up and he notices that his window's broken, and he's like, have I been burgled? Like, who are you? Like, whatever. And they're like, we're the police. And he's like, oh, thank God. And they're like, no, you're under arrest. So as it turns out, back then, this is mid-90s, the laws were such that the only thing they could charge him with was handling of stolen goods, which has like a 2-year max sentence, right? And so all the laws have had to been changed. He ended up serving 3 years and now works with the police there. But he made tons of money. He doesn't feel bad about it at all. He made millions and millions of dollars, was driving around in super lavish sports cars and, the works, like had all the fine things that he'd always wanted. And so I thought it was a fun story.
He's a guy who can afford a Disney vacation and not.
That's true. He can totally afford one.
I think the moral of that story is you can't hire good help these days. I know the talent pool for smuggling ancient goods includes your deadbeat landlord, but do better. Come on, pay a little better, will you?
Yeah, my takeaway from these is that like, if this is your area of expertise, you are the only one that like can do this. period. This guy, he's an antiquities restorer. I wouldn't know if I walk around Egypt and I just see a statue in the sand. Am I going to know if that's worth $1 million or $10? I have no idea. You know, like he, on the other hand, will absolutely recognize it immediately. Yeah. His landlord talks about it very fondly. He was like, well, I got all these free trips to Egypt, you know, like God, you know, he paid for my hotel and stuff. And I brought back some things. Some of it worked, some of it did, you know, then I got busted because I was trying to like make a little bit extra for myself. Yeah. Everybody's greedy, you know, especially when you're in the world of scammers and stuff. So
I think he touched on the other moral of this story is just like that guy could have gotten away with it a couple of times and made a couple of $1 million and lived very comfortably. Yeah. But he just got too you know.
And he's a very like dashing, uber British dude. Like imagine like the most smarmy Cambridge British, like he could be in the royal family, like, you know, kind of guy. Like, and he talks about, he's like, you know, some people think of me like Indiana Jones or maybe I should do like, you know, some people think of me like the Indiana Jones, but not really. Like, I don't know.
This is definitely movie material, or like an eight episode miniseries that's like 2 episodes too long. You're like, okay, I get it. They're stealing antiquities. Are they gonna catch him? The detective's like, always this close, but never quite catches him.
Yeah.
You know? But
right.
The detective's up all night.
I don't know.
Pouring over the papers. Like, I gotta catch this guy and his wife or his partner's like, get home to your wife, man. It's Christmas Eve. You know? So.
Man, in a related story, this girl had gone to Goodwill and bought this bust that she thought was really cool. Yeah. And then she didn't know anything about it. She took it to the museum and they're like, this is actually 4,000 years old. This is an antiquity. And she was like, I have the receipt. I paid $50 for it. She was really stuck because she wanted to do right by this thing, but you need to have that kind of stuff in like specific settings and like cared for in specific ways that she was totally ill-equipped for. She just thought it was a cool looking Roman head or whatever. And I'm like, outside of situations like that, I'm like, man, how do regular people, like if I were to have infinity money, would I buy the head of a pharaoh from 3,000 years ago? No. Like, why would I?
What like, do with this thing?
And I have to have a whole theme. Yeah, like it's gonna go on a bookshelf, like, you know, some of the tchotchkes Andrea gets from you know, Home Goods. Yeah. Like this will sit on top of the book about antiquities. And like it hardly seems like they're.
I got this bust room. I need, you know, this is gonna go perfect in my bust room. So
it'll fill it out nicely. You know, we've got all the different continents represented now. I've got my Tongan mask and like, or whatever. Like, but
it makes me want, you know, back to the expertise thing. You know, our dad has a lot of expertise in gas pipelines. I wonder if he could scam anybody. What does this scam look like?
Yeah.
He takes the gas pipeline and he reroutes it by his house.
He's like, this actually won't take this up. I don't even know. Dad has explained to me like 50 times what he does, and like after he starts saying like upstream, downstream, I just like glaze. I still don't know what Dad does for a living. But no, I think that oil pipeline on the East Coast that the hackers shut down or whatever a while back, like that's Dad's scam.
Oh, okay.
Like if he could get good enough at hacking and like do that, like I'm turning this shit off. Good luck. I expect $5 million in unmarked bills. Whatever.
See, if we'd have managed to have him on the podcast last week, we could have run this by him. But anyway, missed opportunities. You know, live and learn.
Yeah. Also, that whole like having a moral compass that's pretty good is. Probably keeps him
so
from
bothersome. Our parents and their freaking moral compass. My God. So
like being good people and everything. It's so annoying. Except for when it comes to my shit, and then it's take. Use up Kaylin's stuff as fast as possible.
Yeah, your soda pops, and also charge you for this crummy ass car they're gonna sell you.
Yeah. Right, I know. I've like looked up that Blue Book value. I'm like, I don't even think I got a good deal. Like,
oh, maybe they're you said they're not good negotiators. Maybe they're better negotiators than you know. Maybe mom.
Well, I know they talked 5,000-6,000 and dropped to 3, and I was like,
See?
sure, whatever.
That's their
and
trick. They're like,
and now it's like it's actually worth 1,200.
yeah, they totally Donald Trumped you right there. You know, totally scammed you.
Yeah.
Kaylin,
right,
it's my week to declare the recommended podcast of the week, and the one that I wanted to recommend, I wanted to shift gears finally over into the realm of personal finance. And the challenge here is with personal finance is you have to know a little bit to even get started, right? And this podcast is no different, but it's called Your Money, Your Wealth. Basically, it's two guys, a financial advisor and a CPA, and people will write in and they'll basically say, I have this much money in my Roth IRA, I have this much money in my IRA, I have this much money in my brokerage account. I'm 57 years old. I want to retire at 65. I think my cost of living will be $140,000 a year at that point. Am I in good shape to retire? And they do what they call a spitball for all of these. And they'll do 4 or 5 of these every episode. I like it because it's like totally digestible, totally approachable. You do already have to kind of know, you have to know like what a Roth IRA is to listen to this, or at least an IRA or whatever. You might glean some of this over time listening to it. So when my friend the other day like didn't know what a 529 was, I was like, oh, maybe this isn't the podcast, like the very entry level podcast. Maybe you know some of those. I don't. So maybe this is the 201 level podcast, but if you need some finance 201, this might be a good place to start. Your Money, Your Wealth is my recommendation for the week.
Your Money, Your Wealth. That sounds like a great show. I want to check it out for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know, Kaylin, but...
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, hell yes, we could get criticized. A lot of you listen to this show. I mean...
Yeah. We're like, if you're going to run a scam, be an expert.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean...
But
I'd be surprised if anybody would compliment us, if I'm being totally honest. I just cue the outro music. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, well, one thing I was thinking about recently, so like, Dave Ramsey does talk about getting down to like your absolute bare minimum cost, like of living, right? Whatever. And like yours is of course different because then mine is just me. So it's like pretty easy for me to sort that out. Like how big a difference do you think yours would be if your lifestyle now versus if you guys really cut all the way, It's
a question that I think about 4 or 7 years from now when I expect that the kids will both be graduated from school, right? It's like, how much are we going to live on then? That's the key. That's the key assumption in the spreadsheet, right? We know these are going to be our biggest spending years of our lives here as we pay for the last 3 years of private school and 4-ish years of college. We know it's big money, but we've sort of figured that out. It's funny. I'm like racked with guilt about spending this money that like Andrea wouldn't even blink about. She would buy this microphone that's like $100. She would buy that in a blink. She wouldn't even think twice about it. So anyway.
Yeah. I think that's our parents like
I've got this guy
influence, right.
I mean, the thing I have realized in life is like I'm past the Dave Ramsey. Don't get the cup of Starbucks or the Suze Orsman, who's the same. Like, do not spend, make your own coffee. Don't get the Starbucks, like every single dime like that. Like I've now reached the point of financial security where I don't really start worrying about costs until they're, bare minimum in the 3 digits and more like 4 digits. Now we got to start thinking about things, but anyway.
Yeah, except that $50 SEO.
Yeah, but exactly. I still have the guilt. Probably because it's like only the first $50 and then comes more $50, but
yeah. See, this goes back to what we were talking about last week with like convenience and stuff, right? Like I don't remember the last time I went to Starbucks. Full stop. And if I go to Starbucks, I get a drip coffee every time because I'm like, this is ridiculous. But or getting Uber Eats like delivered. I have a friend who gets Uber Eats delivered more days than not, and I'm like, that is insanity to me. Like I cannot fathom a world in which I've gotten Uber Eats 2 times in the past 12 months.
Yeah. And are
Whatever.
hating yourself for it. I can't believe that you did it.
And and I'm like, I can't believe I got 2 donuts delivered for $15 or whatever. Like,
yeah.
But,
Well, maybe we can ask Frank. This sounds like it's all stuff straight up Frank's alley. I don't know if he does
Yeah.
Uber Eats, but he does a lot of eating out, and he likes to spend money. So anyway, it'll be fun to understand that mentality a little better, because neither you nor I are exactly cut from that cloth. But
yeah, not there.
all right, well, maybe I'll resolve to actually hire this guy, and we'll see if we do any better. And
I'll Venmo you right now. I'll Venmo you
$25. All right, you'll send it to Andrea, and she'll be like, "What's this for?" And then I'll have to explain it, and then
I'll be like, "Don't worry about
it, woman. You got your TJ Maxx,
it's none
and
of
I
your
get
business."
Well,
well, actually, I could send it to you on Apple Cash. Nobody else has to be
I don't
involved.
even know how that works. I might never be able to recover that. That might be like the credit that I earned on this whale watching trip that might never see the light of day. So you might as well send it to Andrea, or just not worry about it, because, like I said, $50 shouldn't be enough for me to worry about. But anyhow. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new to our show because you saw our amazing $50 SEO effort, it's
that's on your account.
Now I have $25 extra to my name, and maybe that's why you're here, because of the $50 that we spent on our search engine optimization. So if you're one of those 12 people that it worked on, you've been listening to Robert and Kaylin Get Rich. Cue the music. Oh, not loud enough. Let's turn this up. There's the outro music. Robert and Kaylin is a production of Get Rich Media. I am Robert Kimmel, your host. This is Kaylin Kimmel, my co-host. We would love for you to rate, review, comment, forward to your friends. Send us an email. Robert and Kaylin Get Rich. Kaylin is spelled Kalyn. Robert is spelled Robert. We want to thank you so much for joining us today. We will be back next week for your weekly terrible commute. In the meantime, anything you want to tell the good people, Kaylin?
Buy your Mexican candles.
Always sage.
Subscribe. Send this to friends. Send us an email.
And really try to use that expertise that you're building over time to generate really good quality scams, but don't get too greedy. You will get caught. That's our message.
Trust no one. Get a pre.
And do not go to Disney World. You would rather have that $250,000 in 40 years. I promise you. With that, Kaylin?
Absolutely.
I think that's it. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.